Greetings, it is I, Susie Q, here to share another conversation. What's showing up in your field, lighting up, turning you on, and illuminating the miracles in your field, right? How good can it get, right? Super fun. So yesterday I initiated this new kind of series, and I think I called it A Life Within a Life with No Physical Ascension. But I'm going to amend it today, a life review with no physical ascension. Okay. And I'm going to say it one more time. A life review with no physical ascension. It means, like, if let's just say you're going back to spirit, you're going back to pure energy. And then you might get a review. But what we're looking at right now is having a review while we're still here in our beautiful body and our beautiful divinity, right? So yesterday we started, and I'm doing like kind of three talking points with some of these kind of synchronicities that kind of occurred with my own life, and I'm guessing you've had these kind of synchronicities too. So quick overview of the first one was about I had a hydroplaning accident, which was pretty epic. And then I started doing automatic writing. And then I also just started perceiving energy, as I was looking out in the Texas Hill Country. And so when we start looking at some of these things, there might be some commonality with some of the things that you're experiencing. So all of these little stories have been leading up to kind of some beautiful gifts that were shown to me a number of years ago. So I'm kind of developing a little bit of the story here. And I think it might be fun, even for you, as you're developing your own story and learning about the gifts and the joy of living, right? So it's pretty fun. All right, so I've got three new talking points with a life review with no physical ascension. Meaning that we have opportunities, even in the moment when something is like, oh, like today's all this stuff, there was all these like little issues, with the next group of energies here. And so we're not like focusing on, oh, all the bad stuff, but we're starting to kind of neutralize and maybe reorganize some of our intentions with how we look at what we call the past or some other events that happen, right? We start neutralizing, harmonizing, and balancing these energies. So we're going to just do three talking points, and I'll get right to it, right to it. So I'm super excited. This has been something I've wanted to do to kind of create an outline. I've done tons of automatic writing, and I've got tons of content. So now I'm like going, but I kind of like doing the videos because I think it's, brings a little bit of personality and a little bit more fun. All right, so the first one is with the a life review with no physical ascension. So we're going to go back to 2008. And I think a lot of us were kind of like 2008, that subprime stuff. I was a real estate broker and doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden everything flattened out, right? It's like flattening out, and so maybe you might be experiencing that now too, right? Maybe there's some of that influence and some of that energy sometimes with these kind of financial downturns or these different things. And so 2008 was like a total stinker. It was a stinker, right? And so when we're looking at some of these times where it was like really challenging and like, oh God, it's a mess, or, like what's going on, right? Is that we start kind of looking at how we can kind of shift a little bit of the energy from things from the past, and we start moving into what I call kind of releasing some energies. And so with the releasing of energies on this related to the 2008 event, and maybe you weren't experiencing it, but I think people that were in the appraisal business and the banking business and the real estate business, which I was in, it definitely was a downturn. It was not fun, people, not fun at all, right? But when we start looking at it, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of clearing, and we're going to erase some of those emotions, even if it's related to now, right? So anything between any other experiences and moving it into now, we're just going to just really erase that energy. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of doing a little bit of dowsing here, but I use it just with my body. So my body is my dowser, right? Okay, so now we're going to move in with that energy of sometimes like, oh God, it's the cats and dogs living together, and what's going on, so we start looking at things in a different way. And so now we're moving into more positive, a harmonization of what we look at as money or currency, or we could just say it's pure energy. We start working with the energy versus the currency or some of the other ways that we talk about what we call money, but we're moving it with the harmonization. It's still going right now. It feels really, really light and fun. And so when we look at times from the past, past, I was like, oh, that was kind of a stretch, it's kind of a stretchy. It's kind of silly is that you just start noticing that some of the stories of our lives can totally be harmonized and brought more into balance. And so I think we're clear with that. So that was about that 2008. And then again, so back in 2010, I decided to make a move. My kids were both in military and then they were gone. So I was like, I sold my country home and I moved back to Houston to be more connected with my mom because I was in Austin for like 26 years and I wanted to have a connection with her. And I did. I had a connection with my mom when I got back to Houston. I would still travel there back and forth with the kids. But 2010 was kind of an interesting time because that was when I made the move and I had some lamenting about it, like, oh God, I had a beautiful place and I was prosperous but I decided to make a choice in that way. And so as it turns out, I stayed there for a number of years and it was good and it was complex. It was a complex move that I made. I'll just say that it was complex. So sometimes if you're like looking at yourself and you're like, I want to move to a different place or I'm going to be making a big shift in my awareness, is that, we can do a little bit of maybe dissolving some of the energies, any kind of feelings that you're not really ready to make a move or you're not really ready to make a change, but you got to do it, is that we're going to be dissolving any kind of energies that are going to be preventing you from taking a step forward that's positive and be abundant and amazing and awesome. So we're going to be moving with that dissolving energy with anything about change or about moving. And so I don't know, like now I'm always like, well, where am I supposed to be? I'm still like questioning. I'm like a 5-year-old. What is a rainbow? What are clouds made of? It's still like that. But when you look at that dissolving of some of the things that might be kind of like right now present with a move or a change, is we're going to go ahead and bring in some purification. So now we're moving into that purification with making a move, and maybe it was like your intentions were good with a move or a change, and then you get there and you're like, whoa, stop the press, people. But that purification is going to be really helping you now. If you're having some changes or movement or some things that you can't quite put your finger on yet, is that we're going to be moving into that purification. And that purification will not only be around the move or around the change. It'll also be around your body and also your auric field. And it might even extend to family, friends, or other energies. Other energies. And that purification is going to be it's going to be like this beautiful, kind of a bath of water, this fresh spring water. So that's going to be really neat. So we talked about 2008 with some of the stuff with the financial downturn, and then 2010 made a move back to my home where I was born, or not born, but just where I lived, right back in Houston. And so, and it was kind of a complex, like I said, a complex situation, but that purification energy is going to be really, really powerful, because like you might take something and go like, ah, yuck. And then you might go, oh God, I'm purifying my body from everything, from the very beginning of the soul's expression, or just from in this lifetime. The next one we're going to look at is 2012. 2012 was kind of a crazy year. It was like a crazy year. And I think a lot of us like right now are kind of feeling kind of cray with some of the stuff that's going on. It's like what's true and what's not. And, it's just kind of it kind of is blending in. The 2012 energy was kind of blending in with the energies that we're having now. Like even the Mayan calendar kind of ended at the end of 2012, so there's 2012 is a big year. I always say every year is a big year, but everyone has every one of these events have a different distinction that we might notice. But that was kind of the end of the Mayan calendar. Now what? Now what do we do? So when we kind of look at it, so my mom had cancer that year, and then we were all kind of circling the wagons, and that was really sweet, being part of her journey with her healing of her body. And then also my son in a deployment, it was like was like, oh my gosh, there was just so much energy around that deployment. And then also at that time, I was in a situation of a divorce. So it's not funny, people, but I don't know. Some people call me Zsa Zsa Gabor. But anyway, it's just been kind of interesting to look at it. But I remember in 2012, right around maybe like September or October of 2012, I remember like going, I just don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing or what's happening to me, right? Because I was so emotional about my mom and about my son and maybe some other things too, that divorce thing, the divorce thing. So it's kind of silly now, but at the time it was kind of a hot mess. It was like a hot mess, people. But when we look at it, that right around that fall of 2012, as I just went out to the night sky, I looked up at the night sky, and I just said, "I surrender." I just totally, I surrender. I surrender. And I just thought, I just don't know that I can personally, at that time I couldn't really kind of discern what I needed to do or where I should be. But that surrender kind of opened up a whole new portal for me. Okay. And so we work with portals and vortices that we start working with a lot of different energies and another way of looking at things. But for now, with some of the things with the 2012 energy, especially with the Mayan calendar ending and some of my family things that were showing up. And so right now what we'd like to do is we'd like to transfer. So we're going to go ahead and transfer. We're going to move into a transfer of the energies, that you may be having experiences with family or with loved ones, with the possibility of healing journeys, not maybe for yourself or for others, and maybe looking at the relationships in your life. Maybe that transfer of energy. You maybe transfer that energy and then commute it into a different way, right? So we're already moving into kind of clearing and transferring out some of those silly stories. It's like the stories is like it's like blah 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 blah, right? We got to keep telling our stories. So now what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and strengthen our beautiful presence, our beautiful divinity, as we've had all these experiences, possibly through financial things that are going on, also with the family things that are going on, making a move, making a change, and then the healing journey, and also missing loved ones. We'll put that in there too. Okay, perfect. So we're strengthening our fortitude. We're really strengthening our divinity. We're strengthening our sovereign self. And we're strengthening more of an aptitude to really notice what is really going to be assisting us in the future. So we start strengthening not only our muscle, right? We're strengthening our muscle here, but we're strengthening in our heart space. We're also strengthening with our brain and with all of that beautiful consciousness here, and also with the DNA. So we're going to do a little bit of a little add-on here, bringing in a little bit more of that awareness and activating the DNA in your system. And so when we do this, when I say I'm like doing that, it's kind of like it's kind of like a band of energies, that are working on behalf not only of this beautiful presence that we are, but just activating higher and strengthening that beautiful sense of DNA. And I think a lot of us right now have had like a few years where it's been like, oh my gosh, it's been just like wackadoodle, 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 wackadoodle. So I think that's it for this one today. So this is the second of the videos. I'll be doing a handful of them because I'm, creating these different outlines and things, kind of some stories of how unfoldment happens and how we start kind of gaining more insights and more helpers, right? Because sometimes we look at the past, it's like, that was so yucky, so creepy, right? And then you start noticing with just a little bit more of a contemplation is that, oh my God, what have I learned? I'm just like, I'm just kind of like in a different space, right? We start learning and growing. And a lot of people with the QHHT or the Akashic Records, we're looking at divine purpose, and we're also looking at our lessons. So if you're feeling like I did some stuff wrong and I'm a stinker or they're a stinker or whatever, is that you just start noticing that you're on your path. You are absolutely on your path. And when you start looking at things and start erasing things, you start dissolving things, you start transferring things, then you start moving in that harmonization, you're moving into the purification of your beautiful divinity. And then you start strengthening with that fortitude. And so all of these things that we're experiencing, good, bad, or indifferent, are all helping us. So have a great day and namaste.